My son Alex wants to set me up on a blind date. According to him, the guy is handsome and loaded. Honestly, could a kid be any more thoughtful? But when we actually met, I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. Because of course this handsome rich suitor was my ex-boyfriend. Matthew's eyes locked onto my son, his gaze sharp and intense. He spoke through gritted teeth, each word a little shard of ice. Whose kid is this? A cold wave of panic washed over me, and the words just tumbled out of my mouth before I could stop them. Well, he is not yours, that is for sure. You of all people should know whether or not that is even possible. Matthew was speechless. Mom, I think the white dress would look much better on you. Alex was standing in the doorway. He is only 4, but he has this serious old soul quality that makes him seem so much older than his peers. Especially when he furrows his brow, he looks like a miniature adult, just like he was doing now. I glanced down at my outfit, a plain white t-shirt and a pair of blue jeans. Simple, casual. What was the problem? I cleared my throat. Ah, here we go again. Another one of those moments where I have to have a heart-to-heart with my little man. Alex, honey, there is an old saying that a son should never find fault with his mother. The point is, you are not supposed to criticize my fashion choices. Alex's expression was dead serious. Mom, I am simply offering you a pertinent suggestion that will enhance your overall image. Whether you choose to accept it or not is entirely up to you. Sometimes he is just not cute at all, it is true. My son Alex is the very definition of what other parents call that other kid, the one all their children are compared to. He is handsome, articulate, quick-witted, and has a sky-high IQ. Plus, he is fiercely independent. It is just being his mom comes with a lot of pressure. I forced a smile onto my face. Alex, sweetie, mommy feels really comfortable dressed like this. Besides, it is Saturday. My only plan is to spend the day playing with you. I have been working like crazy lately, pulling all-nighters to keep a project at work on track. Now that it was finally wrapping up, I was determined to dedicate the entire weekend to my son. I walked over to the entryway to change my shoes. I had just slipped one off when my son's voice drifted over, slow and deliberate. Mom, you forgot we are having dinner with Diana and her family today. I froze. He was right. I had totally forgotten. Now that he mentioned it, I vaguely recalled him coming into my study 2 nights ago while I was drowning in data. He must have told me then that we had plans to meet up with Diana this weekend. Diana is his best friend at kindergarten. I had seen pictures of her in the parent group chat. She is this adorable little thing, all pink and sweet, with a constant heart-melting smile. She is the kind of cute that makes you want to pinch her cheeks, and just like that it all clicked. Oh, I get it now. No wonder Alex was suddenly so concerned with my wardrobe. TSK, my son is growing up and leaving me behind already. I patted his little shoulder, my voice full of mischievous understanding. Son, I get it. Say no more. Mommy is going to go change into that much better looking white dress right now. Good, he said with a single satisfied nod. Damn it. Now I have to make a good impression on my future daughter-in-law's parents, for my son's sake, of course. 10 minutes later, I emerged from my room fully dressed in the white dress and with my makeup done. Alex's face lit up with approval. Mom, you look really pretty. But of course I pined. I leaned down and planted a big smooch on his handsome little cheek, then took his hand. All right, let us go. Today is all about you. Mom, I would not be so sure about that, he said, dropping the cryptic comment as we walked out the door, leaving me completely baffled. And of course he was right. I found out what he meant a few minutes later. We were in the car and he was safely buckled into his car seat in the back. He calmly and in a very matter-of-fact tone announced that he had arranged a blind date for me. My foot slammed on the brake and the car screeched to a halt on the side of the road. I twisted around to look at him. My wide, shocked eyes met his small, perfectly calm ones. He looked just like that scumbag. I had to remind myself he is my son. I have to be patient. I managed to stretch my lips into a smile. Alex, sweetie, blind date is a very serious term. You should not throw it around lightly. I know, Mom, I am being serious, he replied. I was at a loss for words. To be more precise, he continued, Diana and I are both being very serious. What in the world? We are serious about setting you up on a blind date with her uncle. I almost swore out loud. Oh my God, I cannot do this anymore. This kid is too much for me. I was completely speechless. Do not worry, Mom. Diana's uncle is really handsome. He is even better looking than all those celebrity idols you are always crushing on. My eyes lit up. For real? Of course. All right then, son. Buckle up. That was it. I was done pretending. I am a total sucker for a handsome face, and I am not ashamed to admit it. Inside the coffee shop, I immediately spotted the adorable little girl sitting by the window. She was even cuter in person than in her photos, with big sparkling eyes that seemed to flutter when she blinked. She saw us too and started waving her chubby little hand in our direction. My son led me over to her table. She was sitting there all by herself. Hello, Auntie. I am Diana. You are so pretty, just like my mommy. me. Oh, my heart was melting into a puddle on the floor, but as I got closer I could not shake the feeling that she looked familiar. I just could not quite put my finger on why. Hi Diana, it is so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for taking care of our Alex at school. I know that all the milk candies and little cakes in his pockets when he comes home are from you. Even though my son was popular at school, his personality was a bit cold, a trait he probably inherited from a certain scumbag. He had very few close friends, and Diana was one of them. Alex tugged on the corner of my shirt and shot me a look that clearly said, "Mom, please stop talking." Huh, fat chance, really? I thought Alex did not like those candies and cakes. In that case, I will be sure to give him more next time, Diana chirped. My son shot me a glare before quickly changing the subject. Diana, where is your uncle? Are you here alone? Just as the words left his mouth, Diana called out to someone behind me, "Uncle." I turned around, my eyes following the sound of her voice, and oh my god, I died. Do not ask me how I died of pure, unadulterated embarrassment. The man walking towards us was tall and lean, dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit. His face was stunning, deep-set eyes, a well-defined jawline, handsome and refined in a way that just screamed sophistication. And holy crap, it was my scumbag ex. No wonder Diana looked so familiar. I bit my lip and immediately dropped my gaze to the floor where my eyes met my son's. I was speechless. Leave it to my own flesh and blood to go out and find his biological father for me. A faint, cool scent of mint drifted into my nostrils. It was the same scent he always used to wear. "Uncle, this is Alex. Mom, is not she beautiful?" I swallowed hard. Was it too late to just grab my son and make a run for it? I bent down slightly, my hands already reaching for Alex, but a leg clad in tailored suit pants blocked my path. The next second, a large hand with long, elegant fingers extended towards me. "Hello, I am Diana's Uncle Matthew." That voice, it was the same voice that had whispered my name over and over again in my dreams for years. When I did not respond, my son nudged my arm. "TSK, fine." I lifted my head and our eyes met. I saw a flicker of shock and disbelief in his 4 years. It felt like both a lifetime and no time at all. The passionate, free-spirited boy I once knew had matured into a poised and sophisticated man. That air of innate nobility he always had was even more pronounced now. Well, of course it was. He was the scion of a wealthy and powerful family. He had every reason to be confident. "Hello, I am Alex, Mom." Haley, a storm of emotions I could not decipher swirled in Matthew's deep eyes. My heart clenched. The next moment his gaze shifted from my face to my son's. He spoke through gritted teeth. "Whose kid is this?" Panic seized me and I blurted out, "He is not yours anyway. You of all people should know whether you are capable of that or not." Matthew was silent. An awkward, heavy silence hung in the air. After a long moment, Matthew leaned in close to my ear, his voice a low, cold whisper. "So that is why you disappeared without a word back then. You used me and threw me away because I could not satisfy you." What? I was furious. How dare this bastard twist the truth, especially in front of the children? I glanced at my son, and sure enough his brow was furrowed with concern as he looked at me. "Matthew, do not talk nonsense," I hissed, my voice rising in anger. "Who used who and threw them away? You were the one who lied to me." After our high school graduation, my mom coaxed me into listing the University of Pennsylvania as my first choice. That was the year my dad's work was transferring him to Switzerland, and I think my mom was terrified I would interfere with their romantic getaway. So, citing the fact that I was officially an adult, she packed me up and shipped me off to Penn, the very place where she and my dad had met and fallen in love. Fine by me. On the first day of orientation, I dragged my suitcase onto campus, ready to start a new chapter of my life. I was in the main hall getting registered when I turned around and bumped right into someone. "Sorry, are you okay?" I looked up and my soul just left my body. The guy standing in front of me was literally my perfect type. Those deep-set eyes, that strong nose, those thin lips, and that cool, aloof vibe he had. Oh my god, I am so shallow, but I was instantly in love. My mom always told me that if I ever met someone I liked, I should not be shy. I should just go for it, and I have always been a good, obedient daughter, so I went for it. And luckily for me, Matthew and I started dating. Our college romance was pure and simple. And I was so happy I completely forgot what country my parents were. Even in my enthusiastic roommate, however, gave me a full rundown on Matthew's background after she found out we were together. The gist of it was Matthew's family was incredibly wealthy, and that kind of old money dynasty would definitely expect him to marry someone from a similar background. I hesitated for maybe a second before pushing her words to the back of my mind. I never once felt like I was less than him in our relationship. Later on, Matthew wanted to take me home to meet his family. He even offered to fly to Switzerland with me to meet my parents. There was an undisguised urgency urgency and sincerity in his voice when he said he wanted to marry me as soon as possible, and I believed him. That is why on the day after my final thesis defense, when I saw him with his arm around another girl coming out of a 5-star hotel, my mind went completely blank. On instinct, I pulled out my phone and called him. He glanced at his screen, then looked at the girl in his arms and promptly hung up on me. In that moment, I felt like the world's biggest fool. I knew I needed to wait to get an explanation from him to find out what was really going on. But before I could even find him, I got a call from my parents in Switzerland. My dad had been in a car accident. My mom was sobbing hysterically on the other end of the line. I had no choice but to grab my diploma and book the first flight out of the country. For the first 3 months in Switzerland, the hospital kept issuing one critical condition notice after another. My mind was numb with fear, and I had absolutely no energy to even think about chasing Matthew for an explanation. 3 months later, my dad was finally moved out of the ICU and into a regular ward. It was only then that I realized I had not had my period in a very long time. Mom, my son's voice pulled me back from the past. He tugged on my hand. Can we sit down? Everyone is staring at us. Oh God. I felt a rush of blood to my head and I nearly choked. I had to remind myself I gave birth to him. Do not get angry, just do not get angry. After a moment of internal coaching, I plastered a smile on my face. Of course. Across the table, Diana chimed in at the perfect moment. Uncle, can we sit down too, please? Aw, she was just too cute. Who could possibly say no to that? The corner of Matthew's mouth twitched into a smirk. He shot me a look full of hidden meaning. Sure. Once we were all seated, the two kids started chatting away, their sweet high-pitched voices filling the air. It would have been utterly adorable if it were not for the pair of sharp eyes boring into me from across the table. With that intense gaze fixed on me, I could not exactly relax and enjoy the moment naturally. After a few minutes, the kids' conversation turned to me and Matthew. Uncle, do you and Auntie know each other? Diana asked. I squeezed my hand into a fist, and my son sitting beside me immediately followed her lead. Mom, are you two friends? This was a tricky question. With 3 pairs of eyes locked on me, staying silent was not an option. So I gritted my teeth and gave a slight nod. The next second, a cool, sarcastic voice cut through the air. We are friends. The mockery in his tone was crystal clear. I shot him a fierce glare, trying to convey a silent message. Play along for the kids' sake. Matthew just smirked, a playful glint in his eyes. Alex and Diana, seemingly oblivious to the undercurrent of tension between us, launched into a new round of praise for their respective guardians. My uncle is super smart. He is a top university graduate, Diana boasted. My mom is a great cook. She can even use the microwave as an oven, Alex countered. My uncle does not have a girlfriend. He is not a player. Okay, this was starting to feel a little weird. My mom does not have a boyfriend. She is very faithful. A heavy silence fell over the table. I decided it was time to make my position clear. Alex, mommy does not need a boyfriend right now. I am perfectly happy with just you. My son's brow furrowed. You do not like Diana's uncle? He asked, his little mouth forming a pout. I was mortified. He looked genuinely conflicted. But Mom, I do not get it. He is totally your type. I have seen the pictures, and he is even better looking in person. Okay, son, that is enough. You can stop talking now. Just then another voice laced with curiosity interjected. What about your dad? Does he know you are so thoughtful about your mom's love life? My son looked at Matthew with a dead serious expression. That depends on what day of the week you are asking about. I was confused and Matthew just blinked. On Mondays my dad is stuck in a ditch on the side of the road and has not climbed out yet. On Tuesdays he has been abducted by aliens and has not escaped. On Wednesdays he is in Antarctica catching penguins for me. On Thursdays he is in the Arctic taking pictures of polar bears. On Fridays he is observing Godzilla. On Saturdays he is busy transforming to save the world, and on Sundays he rests, but he has to write a summary of his week. I was dumbfounded. When Alex was younger he used to ask me where his dad was. At the time I thought he was too young to understand, so I made up a few white lies to satisfy his curiosity. Eventually he stopped asking and I thought he had forgotten. I never imagined he would not only remember them all but also assign them to specific days of the week. This was just absurd. Feeling a pain of guilt, I glanced across the table. Matthew's eyes were dark and deep, like 2 swirling vortexes that could pull you in. I quickly looked away. As a final touch, my son added, I do not think my dad is aware of my efforts. He seems pretty busy. Matthew's lips curved into a half smile. His schedule certainly does seem packed. All I could do was force a laugh and offer a weak explanation. My husband, he had some bad luck, passed away young. After a long pause, a soft icy came from across the table. Fine, let us just leave it at that. In the end, we could not even make it through the meal. I came up with a lame excuse and practically dragged my son out of there. Honestly, I was afraid that if we stayed any longer I would be the one with the bad luck who passed away young. Back home I collapsed onto the sofa. Alex tipped tiptoed over to me looking concerned. "Mom, are you mad a little?" I admitted. "Why, it is complicated." I looked at him seriously. "Alex, do you really want a dad?" "No," he said without hesitation. "Huh, then why did you try to set me up on a blind date?" "Because Grandma and Grandpa think you need a husband." I had no response to that. My mind went blank just like it did all those years ago. I remember sitting in that hospital corridor, my mom talking to me for a full hour and a half, rationally laying out all the pros and cons. I spent the entire night wrestling with the decision, and by morning I knew I was going to have this baby. After my dad was discharged, I told him I was pregnant. Having just had a brush with death, he was calmer than I expected. He just asked me one question: "Are you sure?" I nodded. He reached out, stroked my hair, and said, "Do not worry, we are here for you." That one sentence washed away all my fears throughout my entire pregnancy. They never once asked me about the baby's father. In their eyes, this child was simply mine. As Alex grew older, his unique qualities began to shine through: his intelligence, his looks. My parents naturally guessed that his father must have been an exceptional man as well. I knew what they were thinking without them having to say it. They were hoping that the baby's father and I could find a way to be together. It has been 4 years, and that explanation is still hanging in the air between us. When I first moved back to the country, I was so busy finding an apartment, a job, and a school for Alex that half a year flew by in a blur. By the time everything settled down, it felt like that explanation was not necessary anymore. For all I knew, Matthew was happily married to that girl from the hotel with a family of his own. And then, just as I had finally given up on the idea of ever getting closure, Matthew and I ran into each other in the most awkward, cliche way imaginable. "Mom, do you really not like Diana's uncle?" I snapped back to reality. My son was looking up at me, his eyes wide and earnest. But I think you two look really good together, son. Please just stop talking." The next morning I woke up with 2 giant dark circles under my eyes. I was running late, so I dropped Alex off at school and rushed to the office. The moment I walked in, my boss called me into his office. "Oh great, the client overlords were being difficult again. The company I work for is a real estate agency, and our biggest client is the TR Group, a massive domestic conglomerate with a hand in countless industries. We are responsible for a subsidiary of theirs called TH Real Estate. Lately, everyone in the office has been working overtime for weeks because TH Real Estate is about to launch a new residential project. I am in charge of the advertising and promotion for it. From what my boss was saying, the client wants our company to send someone to work on site at their office. They need someone who can update the promotional materials with real-time data as they provided." It was a perfectly reasonable request. What I did not expect was for my boss to choose me, a new hire with less than 6 months at the company. "Haley, everyone here has seen what you are capable of. This project is your stepping stone to a promotion and a raise. Do a good job and do not let me down." "All right, I will take that pep talk. Do not worry, boss. I guarantee I will meet every one of the client's demands." "Good. Report to TH Real Estate this afternoon. Someone will be there to meet you." Wow, that was fast. That afternoon I arrived at the TH Real Estate building half an hour early. I stood on the sidewalk, craning my neck to look at the towering, magnificent skyscraper. I had to admit I was impressed. It just screamed money. After explaining my purpose to the security guard at the entrance, I headed straight for the reception desk. A few minutes later, a polite-looking man with glasses came over to greet me. "Miss Haley, I am Pete, the secretary. This way, please." I forced a professional smile and quickly followed him inside the elevator. I watched as Pete pressed the button for the top floor. I was a little surprised. Do big companies really value their marketing departments this much, giving them the entire top floor? I frowned but did not dwell on it. I just followed Pete as he led the way until we stopped in front of a heavy, imposing wooden door. "Here we are, Miss Haley." My composure finally cracked. "Pete, I think there might be a mistake. Are we in the right place?" "No mistake," he said seriously. "Our CEO, Mr. Matthew, has been personally overseeing this project from the beginning. So for the time being, you will be receiving your assignments directly from him. This will help improve efficiency on both sides." The moment I heard that name, a shiver went down my spine. Pete twisted the doorknob. "Please go in, Miss Haley. Mr. Matthew is waiting for you." The office was enormous. The first thing I saw was the floor-to-ceiling window that took up an entire wall. Sunlight streamed in, illuminating the man sitting behind a large desk engrossed in some documents. The backlighting and the distance made his face a little blurry. Hoping against hope that it was just a coincidence, that it was a different Matthew, I called out softly, "Mr. Matthew," and then the man stood up. He was tall. He stepped out from behind the desk, walking towards me through the patches of light and shadow on the floor. The light caught the fabric of his crisp black shirt, making it shimmer. As he got closer, his face came into sharp focus. I was completely stunned. In a situation like this, it was hard not to feel like I was in the middle of some elaborate conspiracy. "Matthew, did you do this on purpose?" He smiled as he moved closer closer, I instinctively raised a hand to shield myself, but he just brushed past my shoulder. Okay, now I was certain this jerk did this on purpose. Miss Haley, this will be your temporary workspace at TH Real Estate. I hope we have a pleasant time working together. I followed his gaze. My desk was positioned directly in front of his. No matter who looked up, the other person would be the first thing they saw. How could this possibly be pleasant? While I was still frozen in shock, Matthew's brow furrowed and his tone became all business. Miss Haley, my office is not in need of a door guard at the moment. All right, that did it. My fists were clenched for the rest of the afternoon. Matthew was completely absorbed in his work, acting as if another living, breathing human being in the room did not even exist. The self-control of these corporate bigwigs is really something else. While I was not going to be outdone. For a while, the only sound in the office was the quiet tapping of our keyboards. After finishing up a data report, I finally looked up and stretched my neck. Across from me, Matthew was still focused on his work, his head bowed. The sunlight reflecting off his desk cast a warm glow on his handsome face, making him stand out even more. For years had only served to refine the natural confidence he always had, tempering it into something more mature and even adding a sharp, formidable edge. Haley, just because your husband passed away young does not give you an excuse to stare at me. Our eyes met, and as were full of unconcealed amusement. I could not take it anymore. You are so conceited. My brother has abs, and my cousin is gorgeous. Why would I need to look at you? The moment the words left my mouth, his face darkened. Matthew stared at me, his gaze so intense that the air in the room seemed to thin. My breathing became shallow and uneven. I quickly looked down, avoiding his piercing stare. I was the first to back down. I finally made it to the end of the workday without waiting for Matthew to say a word. I grabbed my things and practically fled the office. As soon as I was out the door, I found an empty corner and immediately called my boss. Oh my god, there was no way I could do this job. The call connected and my boss' cheerful voice came through the line. Haley, what style of office do you like, huh? I have already had HR start arranging for your own office to be decorated. By the time you return triumphantly from TH Real Estate, it should be all ready for you. Wow, by the way, why did you call? Is something wrong? Never mind, I can do this. I can definitely keep doing this job. Everything is great here, boss. After hanging up, I was about to leave when my phone rang again with a sharp, insistent tone. I glanced at the screen. It was an internal call from a landline. I hesitated for a second before answering. A familiar, cool voice came through the receiver. Miss Haley, there is an error in the spreadsheet you sent me. I was stunned. I rushed back to the office. Almost immediately behind the desk, Matthew's eyes were still glued to his computer screen. He did not even look up when he heard the door open. Come here, see for yourself. His tone was blunt and direct. I pressed my lips together and walked over to his desk, stopping right beside him. That cool mint scent filled my senses again. The next second, Matthew pointed a long, elegant finger at the screen. From my standing position, all I could see was the cold white glare of the monitor. Do you see it? Of course I could not see it. I rolled my eyes internally. I leaned down, moving closer to the screen, and then I saw it. My stomach dropped. Oh my god, I had made such a rookie mistake. I had added an extra 0 to one of the pre-launch data points. I remembered now. It must have happened when I was talking to Matthew earlier. My finger must have accidentally brushed against the keyboard. Oh god, I subconsciously glanced at him. At some point he had loosened his tie and it now hung casually around his neck. He was leaning back in his chair, looking utterly relaxed. The way his eyes crinkled at the corners with a hint of laziness as he looked at me made my shallow little heart do a backflip. My face instantly flushed red. I am sorry, I will go fix it right away. Just as I started to stand up, Matthew stretched out his long legs, blocking my way. Fix it here now. But the mouse was on his right side. Fine. I was about to quietly move to his other side, but his feet showed no signs of moving. Hurry up, my client, my promotion, my private office. I repeated the words in my head like a mantra. I reached out, my body leaning further and further to the right until I finally grabbed the mouse. The posture forced me so close to him that it felt like I was half in his lap. Every little movement I made caused my clothes to brush against him, the soft rustling sound feeling incredibly intimate in the quiet office. My ears were on fire. A few minutes later I finally finished. Matthew, it is done. As I started to pull back, Matthew leaned forward. Let me see, and just like that I was trapped with his arms practically encircling me. We were so close I could feel his breath on my skin. The air between us was hot and charged with an unspoken tension. What was he trying to do? I shot him a complicated look and my eyes met his as he looked up from the screen. For a second his brow furrowed, then he slowly leaned back, a smirk playing on his lips. Haley, I am not interested in office roleplay, he said slowly, his eyes glinting with amusement under his knowing gaze. I bolted out of the office. Oh my god, this was just too much. When I got home my face was still burning. My son noticed immediately, his eyes scanning my face with concern. Mom, do you have a fever? Looking at his eyes, which were so much like a certain jerk's, I forced 2 words through gritted teeth. I am fine. Oh, he said, drawing out the word. It sounded exactly like I will just sit here and watch you lie. Staring into his clear, innocent eyes, I finally gave up. With a frustrated groan, I collapsed onto the sofa. He was too smart. There was no hiding anything from him. Sure enough, the next second his little legs were carrying him over to me. He sat down on the rug, propped his chin in his hands, and looked at me with a serious expression. Mom, did you run into Diana's uncle today? Huh, I frowned because he continued, the way Diana's uncle looked at you the other day was just like in that nature show I like to watch. You know, the way a cheetah looks at a gazelle. It is that look that says, I have to catch it, I have to eat it. I wanted to cry. Son, I am begging you, please just be a normal, innocent kid for once. That night I had another nightmare. I was running for my life across a vast savanna. Behind me, a sleek, powerful cheetah was chasing me relentlessly, its fanged mouth open wide. Just as I thought I might escape, my foot caught on a branch and I fell. The cheetah let out a roar and leaped through the air, pouncing on top of me. When I opened my eyes, it was not a cheetah pinning me down, but that jerk Matthew. He was grinning, his teeth looking unnaturally white. In the dream, Haley, he said, you are not getting away this time. Another sunny day, another day with dark circles under my eyes to beat the morning rush hour. I got to TH Real Estate a full half-hour early, but the lobby was already bustling with employees wearing their ID badges. Compared to my company, where everyone clocks in at the last possible second, the difference in work ethic was stark. I suddenly understood my boss' desperation to hitch our wagon to this corporate giant. Ding, the elevator arrived. This was the 3rd one I had waited for. This time I was smarter. I stood my ground right at the front of the line. The second the doors opened, I squeezed inside without even looking up, and then a familiar scent wafted past me. The doors closed and I realized no one else had gotten in. I turned around. Matthew, dressed impeccably in a suit, was standing there smiling at me. The same feeling of being cornered from my dream washed over me. Oh my God, that is a great smile, but please never smile at me again. Morning, he said. I discreetly shuffled forward a few steps. Morning. An awkward silence filled the small space. I stared intently at the floor numbers as they climbed, wishing they would go faster. We were almost there, just 3 more floors to go. I was about to let out a sigh of relief when the light suddenly flickered and died. The elevator car plunged into darkness and then lurched violently. Ah, I screamed, completely terrified. A strong arm wrapped around me, pulling me into a firm embrace. Matthew, I cried out, a purely instinctual reaction. His body tensed for a moment and then his grip on me tightened. Do not be afraid, he murmured, his voice a steady presence in the dark. It is just a malfunction, we will be fine. His large hand rested on my back, gently stroking it in a soothing rhythm. At the same time, he reached out and pressed the button for every single floor. After the initial violent shaking, the elevator stabilized in the darkness. Matthew kept whispering words of comfort. The warmth of his breath against my ear miraculously calmed my racing heart. Tucked safely in his arms, the familiar feeling of his embrace brought back a flood of memories. My eyes started to sting with tears. Just as I was about to speak, the elevator suddenly dropped. Matthew's tall frame shielded me completely, pulling me into his own little world of safety. After a terrifying 10 seconds, the elevator shuddered to a stop. Haley, do not be scared, it is over, he kept reassuring me, but I could feel the dampness of his shirt soaked through with a thin layer of sweat. Just then a muffled, anxious voice came from outside the elevator doors. Matthew, are you okay? I am fine, he called back. Matthew, I have already called the maintenance crew, they will be here in a few minutes. Okay, he replied. Hearing that I knew we were safe, I instinctively tried to pull away, but Matthew's hand moved to the back of my head, gently but firmly pressing me back against his chest. I was even more flustered than before. 5 minutes later, a sliver of light pierced the darkness as the doors were pried open. I immediately pushed Matthew away. Caught off guard, he stumbled back, his body hitting the elevator wall with a soft thud. He frowned, his voice just loud enough for everyone to hear, but not angry. Haley, you are really something else. Use me and then just toss me aside. I looked at the stunned faces of the crowd gathered outside the elevator and fell silent. And just like that, thanks to Matthew's little comment, I became the #1 topic of gossip at TH Real Estate. The break room, the restrooms, my legend was whispered everywhere. And the instigator of it all, he acted completely unfazed. He even had the audacity to invite me to the company cafeteria for lunch. Yeah right, go away. After the elevator incident, it was like a switch had been flipped and Matthew's shamelessness level went through the roof. During work hours, he was still the consummate professional, criticizing and correcting my work as needed. I had to admit his understanding and instinct for the market were on another level. I learned more from him in that short time than I ever could have back at my own office. It was definitely a valuable experience. But the moment it was personal time, Matthew became a different person. person like right now. He was leaning casually against my desk. Haley, I saved your life. You can repay me by either working like a horse for me or by marrying me. Pick one. I paused, my hand hovering over my bag. I had just gotten a call from my son. He wanted chicken wings for dinner, but we were out, so he asked me to pick some up on my way home. Matthew must have overheard, because that is when he dropped his ridiculous ultimatum. Matthew, I believe I have already thanked you. And besides, the maintenance crew were the ones who actually saved us. I provided you with emotional support and physical protection. How is that the same thing? I had to resist the urge to throw my bag at his head. I do not have time to work like a horse, and I am not interested in marrying you. Is there a third option? He grinned, a devastatingly charming smile. Yes, I want chicken wings too. That jerk. At the supermarket, Matthew pushed the shopping cart while I picked out the chicken. When I came back from the meat counter, I found the cart was half full of snacks, chips, candy, chocolate. I shot him a disapproving look as if sensing my judgment. He said, you know I do not like snacks. These are for my son. My heart skipped a beat. He is my son, I retorted automatically. Matthew just smiled, his eyes filled with an emotion I could not quite read. Right, your son, go away. I was getting angry again. I started picking through the snacks in the cart. Alex does not like this stuff. There are too many additives, and this candy, have not you seen the news? It is full of ingredients that are bad for a child's brain development. So what does Alex like to eat? His warm breath was right by my ear. I tensed up. At some point he had leaned in close, his head bent down to look at the ingredients list in my hand. For a fleeting moment we looked like a married couple who had been together for years. My face flushed and I quickly started putting the snacks back on the shelves, using the activity as an excuse to escape the heat emanating from him. Damn it, I lost again. Standing at my front door, I looked at the man beside me who was holding 2 grocery bags and gave him one last warning. Less talking, more eating. Okay, he said agreeably. Why did I suddenly have a bad feeling about this? I punched in the code and the door clicked open with a beep. The gazelle is still unaware of the danger. With a perfect stalk, the cheetah only needs to wait for the gazelle to get a little closer before it is certain to take down its prey. The wind from the balcony blew through the apartment, carrying the deep magnetic voice of the narrator from the nature documentary. With it, I was too late to kick Matthew out. Apparently it was hearing the door. My son came running from the sofa. He was about to jump into my arms like he usually did, but he skidded to a stop when he saw who was with me. Uncle Matthew, hi there, your mom invited me over for chicken wings. What? The next second my son glanced at me, then politely invited Matthew inside, leaving me standing alone and bewildered in the entryway. In the living room, Alex and Matthew were already busy playing with Legos. It was a really difficult set, and for the longest time Alex had only managed to build half of the tale. From the kitchen I could hear his happy laughter punctuated by exclamations of "Uncle, you are so amazing." Peeking through the crack in the kitchen door I saw the two of them, their heads bent close together over the Lego set. A strange wave of sadness washed over me. At the dinner table, Alex sat next to Matthew of his own accord. He acted like a little adult, placing a chicken wing in Matthew's bowl. "Uncle, you have to try this. My mom's chicken wings are the best." "Okay," Matthew replied. I could see it so clearly. My son really liked Matthew. His eyes were shining with admiration and joy. He could not hide it. The entire meal was a roller coaster of emotions for me. After dinner, Matthew stood up and started clearing the table. "I will get it," I said, reaching for the plates, but he moved them out of my reach. "Teamwork cannot have you getting too tired." I was about to protest when I heard the click of a camera shutter. I froze and turned around. My son was standing there with my phone, a big grin on his face, pointed right at me and Matthew. "Grandma heard we had a guest, so she asked me to send her a picture." What? Before I could say anything, he had already dashed back into his room. This was getting out of hand. The kitchen felt small and stuffy with another person in it. "Matthew, get out." The moment I said it, the atmosphere in the room shifted. Our eyes met and a new intensity colored Matthew's dark gaze. "Cannot I have not finished my chores?" Matthew had rolled up his sleeves to his elbows, revealing the strong lines of his forearms. The top buttons of his shirt were undone, offering a tantalizing glimpse of his collarbone. This bastard knew exactly how to get my dopamine firing. I pressed my lips together and turned on the faucet. The second my fingers touched the cold water, a large hand reached past me. "It is splashing all over you," he said, and turned the water off. If I moved back, I would be pressed against his chest. If I moved forward, well, I could not move forward unless I wanted to end up in the sink. "Matthew, do not push it. Move," I warned in a low voice, terrified that my son might walk in at any moment. He just laughed, his voice a low, deep rumble by my ear. "Then maybe I want to push it a little further." In the end, I managed to shove him out of the kitchen. Leaning against the door, I touched my burning face. I was completely and utterly overwhelmed. After that night, Matthew's shamelessness reached a whole new level. He started showing up for dinner every night, always managing to get here before I did and charming my son into letting him in. On weekends, knowing I was home, he would just show up at my door with Diana in tow, and how could I say no to Diana's sweet, cheerful calls of auntie? So my weekends, which used to be just me and my son, suddenly became weekends for four. Matthew would always casually mention some interesting place, piquing the kids' curiosity and making them desperate to go. It usually went something like this: "It is not that far really, but we would would have to get your mom's permission, and just like that the decision was on me with 2 kids hanging off my arms begging to go. Fine, we will go right now. That became our new normal. Every weekend Matthew would drive us somewhere, sometimes even to other cities on long holidays. Even after my project at real estate was successfully completed, Matthew remained a constant presence in our lives. I remember one time at an amusement park, Matthew had Alex perched on his shoulders so he could see his favorite cartoon characters in a parade. I saw my son secretly wipe a tear from the corner of his eye that night as I was tucking him into bed. Alex wrapped his arms around my neck and whispered in my ear, asking if Matthew could be his dad. I could not hold it in anymore. I broke down. I could not sleep that night. My mind was filled with images of Alex and Matthew laughing together, playing together, but the reel of happy memories always ended with the same final image: Matthew coming out of that 5-star hotel with a girl in his arms. The next day I asked Matthew to meet me the location, that same 5-star hotel. He pulled up in his Mercedes and a valet immediately rushed over to take his keys and park the car. When he saw me, his eyes lit up. Men, their thoughts are written all over their faces. He naturally took my hand, his voice light and teasing. You like this place? No. Matthew paused for a second, sensing the shift in my mood. Is there something you want to talk about? Yes, okay, I am listening. He did not let go of my hand. Instead, he started toying with my fingers one by one. I yanked my hand away, my anger flaring. For years ago I saw you coming out of this hotel with a girl in your arms. A dead silence fell between us. I looked up and saw that Matthew's eyes had turned dark and stormy. His handsome face was a canvas of emotions I had never seen before. Shock, confusion, the silence stretched on thick and heavy. I looked down and saw his chest rising and falling rapidly. So he finally said, his voice dangerously low, you left without a word, all because you saw me coming out of here with a girl. I did not answer. Haley, you did not even give me a chance to explain. You just sentenced me to death. Another wave of silence. No, I started to say, but before I could finish, Matthew pulled out his phone. He barked 2 words into it, his voice tight with anger: get over here. During the tense wait, several hotel managers came out to greet him, but they all fell silent and backed away when they saw the fury on his face. 10 minutes later, a sports car screeched to a halt at the entrance. A very stylish woman got out. The moment I saw her, I froze. I gritted my teeth. I could not believe he was still in contact with her, and from the tone of his phone call, their relationship was clearly not casual. I was furious. Just as I was about to say something, the woman walked over to us looking annoyed. You are a grown man. Cannot you be a little more considerate? Do not you know I have to take your brother-in-law for his checkup today? What in the world? Matthew scoffed. Oh, I am sure your life is just perfect. Is not it? Happy family, wonderful marriage. Maybe I should have just left you to cry your eyes out in this hotel. The woman looked like she was about to explode. She slapped him hard on the shoulder. What is with the sarcastic tone? Are you asking for a beating? I peeked at Matthew. Oh God, was it too late for me to run? The woman then noticed me. Her eyes, which were identical to Diana's, widened in surprise. Are not you going to introduce me? Matthew ground out the words through his teeth. This is my sister, my full-blooded same mother sister, and this, he said, turning to me, is Haley, the girlfriend who 4 years ago saw me carrying you out of this hotel, dumped me without a word, and did not even bother to listen to my explanation. My eyes met his sister's. A flash of guilt crossed her face, and the hand that had just slapped Matthew instinctively recoiled. After a brief awkward silence, she quickly slipped a jade bracelet off her wrist and pressed it into my hand. Oh, well, I was in a rush when I left the house. Here, sister-in-law, take this for now. I will get you a proper first meeting gift next time I am in a hurry. My husband is waiting for me at home. You young people should sort out your own problems. Bye. And with that, she practically fled to her sports car, revved the engine, and sped off. Oh my God, I was completely floored. The bracelet in my hand was clearly worth a fortune. Before I could say a word, Matthew grabbed my arm and dragged me into the hotel. We went straight to the top floor without any interruptions. The moment we were inside the suite, Matthew pinned me against the wall. My sister has a bad temper. For years ago, she had a huge fight with my brother-in-law and checked into this hotel without telling anyone. My brother-in-law got into a car accident while he was out looking for her. By the time I found my sister, she was a complete mess, just sitting there crying her eyes out. Haley, in your heart, am I really that untrustworthy? Was my love for you so worthless for years? Haley, do you have any idea how much I missed you? But I could not find you. You are so cruel. His forehead was pressed against mine, his deep voice thick with pain. My eyes welled up with tears. That is not what happened, I said, my voice choked with emotion. I wanted to ask you what was going on, but my dad got sick. It was serious. My mom called me, and I was in shock. I had to rush to Switzerland. By the time my dad was stable, I found out. My words trailed off. Matthew gently touched my face. You found out you were pregnant, he finished for me. And you were afraid I would find out, so you had the baby all by yourself. How did you know? He smiled, a sad, tender smile. Alex, he looks exactly like I did when I was was a kid I was the fool again. After that everything happened in a blur. I remember Matthew's voice, low and persuasive, whispering in my ear, "Haley, I want to hear Alex call me dad." My heart melted. Okay, 3 months later, after a successful proposal, Matthew was already planning a grand wedding. On the day of the ceremony, the entire ballroom was filled with white roses. It was breathtakingly beautiful, just like the day Matthew and I first met. "Mom, are you nervous?" Alex, looking like a miniature version of a certain someone in his little tuxedo, made me roll my eyes. My jeans really did not stand a chance. "How can you tell?" "You are squeezing my hand so hard it is gone numb." Oh, I immediately let go of his little hand. Sure enough, it was bright red. "I am so sorry, sweetie." "It is okay. Grandma says it is because you are desperate to get married. I understand." I was speechless. "He really is my son." Alex smiled and gently took my hand again. "Grandma also said that Dad is even more nervous than you are." His words made me pause. I had been so wrapped up in my own nerves that I had not even thought about Matthew. Soon the wedding began. Matthew, looking incredibly handsome in a black suit, walked towards me. My eyes started to tear up again. Before I could wipe them away, I noticed my dad next to me, sobbing uncontrollably. He really did not want to let me go. That made me laugh. Finally, my dad solemnly placed my hand in Matthew's. His palm was slick with nervous sweat. In that moment, I truly understood just how nervous he was. In my mind, Matthew was always the picture of calm and composure. I could not help but smile, and he squeezed my hand even tighter. Amid the cheers of our friends and family, Alex brought the rings to us. With everyone watching, Matthew slowly slid the wedding ring onto my left hand. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a deep, unwavering love. "I finally get to bring you home, Haley. Thank you for giving me Alex. He is the most precious gift I have ever received." Across the room, Alex gave a smug little eyebrow raise, which made everyone laugh again. Matthew pulled me into a tight embrace, his voice thick with emotion. "Haley, having you in my life is the best thing that has ever happened to me." At that moment, the tears I had been holding back finally fell. Oh well, my makeup was ruined anyway. "Matthew," I wanted to shout it from the rooftops, "having you in my life is the best thing that has ever happened to me too."